So this section is a little more difficult. We're going to be looking at the end behavior of rational functions, which is actually something we do in pre-calculus or calculus. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be looking, and rational functions could be doing different things. They could be approaching a number. This would be called a horizontal asymptote, and sticking to that number as we go way out to infinity. That's what I mean by end behavior. What's this graph doing when we're way out here? Is it just sticking to this 3 right there, which would be that horizontal line? Or is it going to blow up to infinity? Or is it going to stick to the x-axis like that? You see right here. So we're going to be taking a look at that. Those are the 3 possibilities. Is it going to go up to infinity? Is it going to approach a number like you see in this example in that picture? Or is it going to be sticking to the x-axis? So let's look at this. What I mean right here, so greater on top, if the power is greater on top, then what's going to happen is our function is going to either go to infinity or negative infinity. We'll have to test to see what it does. So for example, what would that look like is if you had like 2x squared minus 3x to the 5th over 7x squared plus 8x. What you look at is the greatest power. What's the greatest power in all this? A 5. Look at the bottom. What's the greatest? 2. So since the power is greater on top, that means that this is going to go to either infinity or negative infinity. Now, how do we check which infinity it's going to? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the leading ones. So we're going to look at this negative 3x to the 5th. And we're going to look at the 7x squared. And it depends on what our x is approaching. So if our x is approaching infinity, a positive number, we'll picture if we put a positive number to the 5th, is positive times a negative is negative. Over on the bottom, a positive squared is positive times 7 is positive. So this would be going to negative infinity because that's negative. As x goes to negative infinity, we'll picture plugging in a negative number. A negative to the 5th is negative. Remember, an odd power, so negative to an odd power is still negative. Times a negative is positive. And so we'll have a positive on top. And then on the bottom, a negative squared is positive. Anything squared is positive, right? So positive times a positive is positive. So this would be going to positive infinity. We'll see another example of this. This is just kind of a brief introduction. So we do need to check the left and the right end depending upon the question. Let me just see if I can clean that up. What if the power is greater on the bottom? So if the power is greater on the bottom, so for an example of that, let me just move this over a bit, create a little bit of space for us. So if the power is greater on the bottom, then it would look like this. 2x squared minus 3x, no, yeah, we could stick to 3x. Over, let's go with 5x to the 5th minus 2x. Or let me put to the 6th. Keep using the same powers. So right here we can see that the power is greater on the bottom. So what happens here is x goes to infinity, our function goes to 0. Or if x goes to negative infinity, our function goes to 0. No matter what, which end, because the power is greater on the bottom, our function will be going to 0. Now the question is it approaching 0 from above or below? That we would have to do what we just did in this previous example, plug in some numbers, positive or negative, picture, is it going to be positive or negative, and then that would tell you if it's coming from above or below. Now what if the powers are the same? And this is my favorite case, because it's really easy. So what if the powers are the same? So if the powers are the same, let's just say we had 2x squared minus 3x to the 7th over 5x to the 7th plus 8x. So let's just say that's our number. And I can't even draw a fraction sign. Or a 5. So the powers are the same. Now what do I talk about a over b? Well, it doesn't matter which way x is going. So if x is approaching infinity, then our y is going to not equal. It's going to approach negative 3 over 5. So what I'm talking about there is I literally take negative 3 over 5. You just take the coefficients of the two that had the matching power. If x is going to negative infinity, it's still the same number. Y is going to be approaching negative 3 over 5.